This spreadsheet is categorized, tailored, formatted, ready to hand off to an accountant. I didn't build it. I didn't open up Excel. I dragged 2 months of coffee shop receipts into a folder, type one sentence, and walk away to refill my mug. This tool is called Claude Cowork, and if you run a small business, this is the first AI tool that doesn't just talk about your work, it actually does it. In this video, I'm taking you from never opening Cowork to using it like you've done it for months. Zero to pro, let's go. You already know Claude Chat. Chat is a conversation. You ask, it answers. You copy that answer and go do something with it. Now, Cowork is a working session. You describe the outcome you want, and Claude plans it, does the multi-step work, and hands you the finished files. Chat gives you words. Cowork gives you deliverables. Here's the part that surprises most people. Cowork is the same engine that powers Claude Code, Anthropic tool for developers. But there's no terminal, no code, nothing scary. Claude Cowork was built specifically for non-technical people doing non-coding work. That means reports, spreadsheets, organizing files, turning messy notes into something that is polished. If your job is turning information into documents, this was made for you. And the one thing that's generally useful, your Cowork session runs remotely on Anthropic servers, which means you can kick off a task, close your laptop, go take a lunch break, and it keeps going. When you come back, you'll have a finished output. Alrighty, so before the fun stuff with Claude Cowork, let's get you set up. 3 quick things here. 1, you'll need a paid Claude plan. Cowork is on Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise. It is not on the free tier. If you're on the free tier and you've been on the fence, this feature is worth upgrading for. 2, for what we're going to be doing today, working with files on your computer, you want to install Claude desktop app. Grab it at claude.com/downloads, Mac or Windows. And here's why. Your session runs remotely, but when a task needs to reach your file on your machine, it reaches through the desktop app. So for a local file, keep that app open. There's also a mobile option too for Android and iOS. For this video, we won't be touching the mobile versions of Claude. I may make that into a separate video. 3, finding Cowork. This can trip some people up. So right here, Chat and Cowork now live in the same place. You don't have to switch between the browser for Claude Chat and the app for Claude Cowork. You just go to the message box here, the same type of message you would type normally into Chat, and then here you can select Cowork. That's it. And then if you want to go back to a normal conversation, you'll select Chat. Same boxes, 2 modes. As you can see here for Claude desktop app, it's pretty much reminiscent of Claude Chat on the web. Just like the web, you have the left side option items here, and in the middle you have the chat, and then you also have the model selector over here with the effort level. And if all of this looks pretty foreign to you or new to you, I do have a Claude Chat video where I walk through the interface of Claude Chat. Go watch that. Okay, now that the setup is done, let's put it to work. Throughout this video, I'll be featuring a small business called Riverbend Coffee Co. It's a small independent coffee shop that's been serving the neighborhood since 2019. It's kind of the place, you know, one owner wearing every hat, barista, bookkeeper, marketer, janitor, usually all before noon. We're going to start with a task Anthropic literally recommends as your first one. Because it's low stakes and it builds instant trust, organizing a messy folder. I got a folder here from our example business, Riverbend Coffee Co., and it is a disaster. Receipts, photos, a straight spreadsheet, some notes, all with not so great file names. All right, so we're back at the Claude desktop app. So what I'm gonna do is make sure the Cowork tab is selected, and then what I'm gonna do here is add the folder to the Claude desktop app so Cowork can do some work for us. So right here in this option down here, I'm gonna click this menu should pop up, and then I'm going to add folder, and I'm going to add that folder with all the messy files. Now, whenever you add a new folder to Claude desktop for the first time, this pop-up will show. Basically asking permission to edit, delete, and modify files within the folder. This is a fantastic guardrail because it puts you in control on what Claude has access to as far as file modifications on your computer, and it does not modify anything else outside of said folder without your permission. For anyone that's using Claude Cowork for the first time, or if this is your first AI tool, I highly suggest that whenever you add a folder to Claude Cowork and this pop-up shows up, avoid selecting always allow, just so you save full control on what Claude has access to. So with that said, let's hit allow. Now our Riverbend Biz file folder is attached to Claude Desktop, and Claude Cowork can now access it. So what I have in the prompt here is organize this folder. Sort the files into subfolders by types of receipts, photos, spreadsheets, notes, and rename them so they're actually readable with dates where you can find them. Before I run this prompt, I just want to highlight one option here. Where it says manual, if you click that, you'll see a few options here. I highly suggest if this is your first time using Claude Cowork, keep manually approved checked. Just so you have even more control of what Claude is doing. It will occasionally pause and ask permission to process something, and you will either hit approve or deny. This keeps you in full control of the whole process. If there's a specific file within the folder that you don't want Claude to modify or delete, you can just deny the access. All right, so let's get this run and watch what happens. It shows you this plan, then it works through it step by step, and you can see every action that happens. And notice this, it's not silently doing mystery things on my computer. I can follow along, and if it started heading in the wrong direction, I could jump in and steer it. So it's reading the files now. Read 7 files, ran 2 commands, and it's thinking here. So we'll let this run, do its thing. Then over here we have access to the files that it has access to. And we're going through a process. It's sorting through the subfolders, sorting through the Riverbend subfolder files, verifying the final file structure, and then this is all the files that it's getting. So now we have a response. Here it just says all 20 files are removed and renamed. The .ds store left in the root, just as harmless macOS system safe to ignore. Okay, so we got the receipts, we got the photos, we got the spreadsheets, we got the notes. And so now we can go back and see how it structured our folder and our files. Now inside of the folder, we have clean subfolders, readable names, a job that's 45 minutes of mind numbing, clicking and typing, done while I was talking to you. So we have our photos here, receipts, spreadsheets, pretty much everything I asked for. So that's step 1. Let's do the one that actually saves you money now. Okay, this next one is bookkeeping, specifically that shoebox of receipts that's in somewhere that you've been dreading to go through. If you own a business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Riverbend has 2 months of receipts here. Coffee beans, cups, milk, repairs, etc. There's 24 files in this folder. Normally someone would sit down and hand enter every one of these into a spreadsheet. Instead, point it to the folder that you would like Cowork to access. So in this case, I have it pointed to the Riverbend's file folder, and then inside there, I'm pointing it into the receipts folder that has all of the receipts. And then I run a prompt something like this. Now let's see what we get back. Now it's reading each receipt, pulling the vendor, the date, the amount, and categorize it, and building a real spreadsheet. Not a CSV you have to fix, an actual Excel file with formulas that work. So right now it is running. I was thinking it's doing something here. Make sure it looks right. The total amounts, and then you can see the receipts here that is accessing the folder in. All right, so now it's finished. So here is the output I'm getting right now. So what I want to do is open this in Google Drive. I do have a Google account, so let's go into Google Drive. You might need to sign into your Google account for this to come up. Now we have our expense report ready to go. We got the date, we got the vendor, we got the category, we got the amount, we got the month. This is ready to rock and roll. And check this out. Click on any total and there's a real formula behind it, as you can see up here. There's also a summary tab. So if we click on that, we can see that it's broken down by category and month. Now here's the thing. You could do all of this by hand, sit down on a Saturday, open Excel or Google Sheets and type every receipt in one by one, or you can let it do the boring part for you in a minute. That's really it. So do me a favor tonight, grab that pile of receipts, drop them in the folder, and try this exact same thing. So real quick, back on the Claude Cowork window, if I close the preview here, up here at the top right, I just want to look at what it's done. So we can see that during the process, it ran a couple of commands. It ran some bash commands here. If I extend this here, you can see exactly what it's been doing. So, and it's reading the skill. And then let's see here, doing some more bash, then running a command file, and then it's presented the files here. And then over here you have the step-by-step process is what it's doing. It's going into the receipts folder, and then it's using the skill context. So you can always go back and review this anytime if you're just curious on what the flow is like when Cowork is doing work. And obviously, if you want to go back to open that file back up, if you click on this here, it will open the preview file back up. One of Cowork's many superpowers, turning messy inputs into polished outputs. Now let's throw something truly messy at it. Here's a text file of rough notes from Riverbend's owner's brain dump ideas for a fall launch, bullet fragments, half sentences, no order. And look, I get this. We all need to jot down notes every now and then, especially if you're busy and maybe there's an idea that come up. I can definitely sympathize with this. All right, so now I have the messy file downloaded into my desktop from Google Docs and saved into a folder called Messy Notes. I pointed Claude Desktop to the folder. Now, I want two things out of this. I'm going to ask for both in one task. This is what I have as a prompt. Using these notes, first create a one-page fall launch plan as a clean document, organized with clear sections. Then build a short slide deck I can present to my staff and one idea per slide. One little detail I would like to preface before I run this. I've connected the Messy Notes folder to Claude Cowork. You'll notice here you will see the receipts folder and a plus icon. That means Claude Cowork is still accessing the receipts folder alongside the Messy Notes folder. To keep the context clean and more accurate for Cowork, I would like to not include the receipts folder when I run this. So we need to instruct Claude Cowork to disconnect from the folder. Here's how you do it. So if you click here to add a folder, this menu should pop up with all of the folders and the past folders that you connected and even some suggestions. So I'm going to scroll down till I find the receipts. So the receipts is right here, and how I can tell it's selected is if this blue check mark here, that means that Cowork is currently connected with it. So if I click that, now it deselects it and only the Messy Notes folder is connected. Personally, I don't think you have to do this. Claude Cowork should be smart enough to understand the context and make a judgment to access the correct folder. So with all that said, let's give this a run. Alrighty, so we got this running. It's thinking right now. It's running the typical bash commands. I can open up this progress bar, the Messy Notes, the context here. So it's updating, right? So here's the progress that's going on right here. Oh, looked like it failed on something, but it's still running. It's not stopping, which is great. We're making very good progress here. It's creating that one-page full launch plan doc, and then it's going to create a staff slide deck. And then it's going to verify and deliver the files. So right now it's writing to the files. This is how many characters it's writing. So I can see this whole process. We have the skills.docx context, instructions, claude.md file. So we can open this to see what's going on. Okay, so it's creating it, writing some more characters. This must be for the slideshow. So writing the characters now to be built momentarily. Okay, we have this build.js file here, writing the build.js. Running the command. Okay, it says good, one page. Let me check the renders cleanly. Create a one page that fixed perfectly. Now the slide deck. We got a lot of activity going on here. So now it's on the create slide deck part. So this is great. We can have it to do multiple processes as far as creating files. This must be the last step. Let me review the visuals for the overflow and assignment issues. Good, checking the rest. So we got some more activity over here on the side that it's doing. So it's creating some images, checking the remaining slides, fix a few things, looking great, continuing. I love this feedback here. Excellent, all clean, last slide. So it's creating that last slide. We have a bunch of slide files in here in a JPG format. Okay, all 10 slides looking clean on brand, no overflow issues, content checking, and delivering both files now. All right, so for full transparency, this process took a little over 5 minutes, but now we have a structure plan and a presentation from a messy file. I'm gonna go to the top left up here, and I'm gonna close the sidebar, the left sidebar here, collapse that, and that should give us a little bit more room to see what we're working with. So we have two files here, Riverbend Fall Launch Plan, Riverbend Fall Launch Deck. So the launch deck is currently open. So I'm gonna go up here and expand this and check this out. And this looks really good from a pile of messy notes here. So we got different topics, and we can obviously change this. So right now it's in image format, JPEG. We can convert this to a proper slide deck file if we desire. We just have to prompt it. But I think this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go back, uncollapse that, and then go into the other file. And let's expand this. And so we got this whole fall launch plan. We got a big idea, marketing, launch day and training, launch day event, menu and pricing, prep checklist, budget goals, and risk. Notice what's actually happening here across these demos. Same idea every time. Messy in, finish out, Once that clicks, you start seeing Cowork tasks everywhere in your business. All right, so now this part takes you from I can use Cowork to Cowork is a part of my business. Here are 3 features you can use for your business. The first thing I want to talk about is global instructions. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go over here to my profile on the bottom left here. If you click that, a menu should pop up. So if you go into settings, this pop-up should open up, and this is where we can do some modifications of our settings. We can change the appearance to light mode or dark mode. I'm personally a dark mode person. We can change the chat font to a different style, the motion, the voice, the language speed, some notifications. But the one thing I want to focus on here is this global instructions. So where it says instructions for Claude. So here in this text input, you can give Claude standing instructions that apply to every session. Your tone, your format, your preference, a line about your business. I put Riverbend's basic here, so something like, we're a coffee shop. Keep reports simple. My accountants like categories that are in order. Now I never have to retype it. The second thing I want to talk about is Claude Projects. And I talked about Claude Projects in my Claude web version video. So you can go watch that on my YouTube channel if you like. But for now, I'm going to close this out. And if I navigate to the left over here on projects, if I click on that, lands me to the projects page. All projects will be listed here. Now, if you go over here on to the top right, you'll see new projects. Once you click on that, a pop-up should come up. Claude projects group related tasks into their own workspace with its own files, its own context, and its own memory. So I could put something like Riverbend's bookkeeping project, and it remembers the categories, the format I like, task after task. If you do recurring work, make it a project. And third, the one that feels like hiring someone, schedule task. In any Cowork task, you can type /schedule and have Claude run a task automatically on a cadence you pick. And because the session runs remotely, these run without your computer ever being on. Alternatively, you can go over to the left-hand side and click on schedule here, and this will open up the schedule task. And you have a few options here to create a task if you desire. And then you can also go up here to create a new task, and that will kick off the new task creation. So if I click on create with Claude, that will run this task process to then create a task. And so we have some feedback here, and it's going to ask a couple of questions. Think about that for Riverbend. I can prompt something like every Monday at 8 a.m., pull last week's receipts from this folder and update the expense report. Set it once, every Monday morning, it's just done. That's not a chat bot anymore. That's an operational assistant that works while you sleep. That's the pro and 0 to pro. All right, let's lock everything in. 5 steps, 0 to pro. 1, find Cowork in the message box. Same place as chat. Make sure you toggle on Cowork. 2, your first task, organize a messy folder. 3, drop your receipts, get a real expense report. 4, the 3 permissions modes, start in manual, stay in control. And 5, go pro with global instructions, projects, and scheduled tasks. Your one step, and don't overthink this, is step 3. Tonight, take one messy pile of your actual business, drag it into a folder, and give Cowork one plain English task. That's it. The time you handed something finished, it clicks, and you'll never look at busy work the same way again. If this saves you a Saturday, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I make AI generally useful for small business owners. No jargon, daily. Drop a comment with the one task in your business that you'll hand off to Cowork first. I read them and I'll reply on how I prompted. Also, I have a free small business cheat sheet. 10 Claude Cowork tasks that run your busy work for you. Link in description, go grab it. And here's where we're going next. Today we ran Claude Cowork mostly on its own, but there is a Claude small business plugin that turns into a whole team. I'm talking about marketing, bookkeeping, admin, purpose built for a business like yours. I'm walking through the whole entire thing on an example shop in the next video. I'm Donovan. Write, build, scale. We'll see you at the next one.